Our project for this last part of the semester was to look at the Muncie Mall and redevelop it. I chose to go more specific into how we connect the Muncie Mall to the entire community, and I think it was a different approach than most, so it might look a little different from some others, but to begin with the very back of the mall charrette where the entire department came together, we came up with Dell Crossing, which was a senior-focused living community, which included not only services for seniors, but also really for all ages, and just a place for all of East Central Indiana to come together and enjoy. But what I quickly came to understand is just how this site interacts with the surrounding community, and the answer to that is really not at all. So it started getting me thinking. There had been some MITS drivers that had mentioned a former route that ran from roughly Tillotson or the Walmart down to the mall site, and nobody knows really what happened to it, and I haven't been able to even confirm what the route was, but it got me thinking a lot on why that route was here and why it was important. MITS currently runs on a hub and spoke model, so if you want to get anywhere that's not on your route, you got to go downtown, and it ends up being really inefficient. If you are on Bethel and you're trying to get to the mall, that is an extra transfer, and if you're doing it on a Saturday, that could take up to an hour and a half each way. So it's just not ideal for the way it is. So this led to some thinking about bus rapid transit, and that this could be Muncie's first foray. It's well timed with the Red Line opening in Indy, so a lot of the inspiration would come from that. But for the services that I did find, they all opened in the past 2 years, and COVID did impact some of them. Some of them had a later opening, and some of them have actually been fare-free due to COVID, and really everything in between that. But there's a bunch of policies that they all seem to follow, and one specifically. So as you can tell from the images, all the buses are very bright, visible. They're not trying to hide that they're there, and that seems to be a bit of a trend away from what's been the case, is that a bus is just a necessity or something that's not something to celebrate. So that's the first principle I went with. Being cheap with space, you know, it's a little bit of a blunt way to put it, but that's the way that Indy actually really got the Red Line through. They didn't take much private land, they did use the right-of-way that was already public, and they did this through, which I'll talk about a bit later, reversible lanes, which is a really great idea, and I would love to have it on the Galliard as well. 3 is frequency. Something like bus rapid transit, what I tried to do at the beginning was really get to as many people as possible, but it would have ended up making the system incredibly slow, inefficient, and just less reliable overall. So that's what the local routes are there for, and some jitneys that can run as shuttles. This route is to get people places fast. And then 4th is, a lot of agencies have found that sometimes lowering that fare or dropping it entirely is what encourages people to use it. Bus rapid transit and rapid transit as a whole is not supposed to be a business, it is supposed to help the community, and that's what this can accomplish. So this little corridor study that I did, looked at a few areas. I used the ArcGIS Community Analyst tool for this. So the first thing to highlight is that along McGalliard in general, most of McGalliard is a commercial retail corridor. So within a quarter mile of each direction, really the entire way, you have a population of about 7,500, but 10,000 employees. And that's from the over 750 businesses that line this corridor. So we know that this market really isn't just people living in this area. They need to get there, and while the current MIT system serves it fairly well, it's in a completely disconnected way. And we also see 30% of the people that are living so close to McGalliard are below the poverty line, and again, that may come into cost of transportation. Do they not want to own a private vehicle, or can they not own a private vehicle, and then therefore can they not get anywhere else? So we move over to this side a little bit. Well, actually, I'll just mention just the routes that do connect currently. Again, you can see that there's a fairly good spread, and you wouldn't have to walk too far from any of them, but bottom line, you can't get anywhere from McGalliard to another place on McGalliard, and that is the main concern of this project. So here we come to kind of the proposal at a head. So what I would like this to be is not just a one-off. This is something that Muncie can build as a framework and as a hopefully growing city in the future, especially at the small size it is. I think this could be a really good inspiration for other cities the size that bus transit, such as Muncie has, which is amazing for the size city it is possible in the future. And a lot of it is actually possible because of the use of space, just the poor use of space that we've already had. So this specific example I love. This is actually right outside of the mall space that we're in right now at Granville. It is a whopping 23-foot wide turn lane. There is no vehicle that is allowed on public roads that needs that 23-foot wide space. So that already here, without any additional right-of-way, you can keep all the existing lanes, bring it back to standards that NACTA would agree with, and still have a reversible plus lane that flows properly. So if you go over to the rest of it, this is just a simple rendering of what it could look like in practice. So again, it's the traditional 4 4-lane Galliard. Now it would be 5-lane with the center turn lane, however, this turns into a bus lane, so what this would likely do is remove any non-protected left turn from the Galliard, which is also a safety improvement. There are so many slip lanes, so many cross streets, and the Galliard is just not a safe place to be whether you're in a car or you're a pedestrian, especially if you're on a bike. So this would be an overall improvement. If you're talking about the mall site specifically, this bus still would be navigable for the mall itself. Now we have some tighter corners if you go back to the original Dell Crossing possible design, but it's still very easy to handle. And as you can see, the transit center is kind of tucked in the back. So the goal of this project isn't mobility around the mall site itself. It is getting you to and from there, and then other solutions follow. Finally, I thought that MITS could use a little bit of a refresh. It's been stuck in not necessarily a rut, and they have done some improvements, and they love their graphic design and the advertisements they do. However, I just don't think that the brand that they have really celebrates themselves enough. So I kind of reworked a little bit of what they were going for, and just had the 2 forward slashes as some kind of common theme. You can also see it come up, and if there's branding elements, especially in possible design of the buses, you still have that forward slant, very regal still, and very forward thinking. And finally, the MITS Plus brand they have, I think, is a wonderful idea for a name. I do think it's a bit misguided because that's not what I picture. It's currently an accessible bus service that's on demand. I picture that as what would fit the bus rapid transit route quite well. So what would lead to that is just a simple rebrand. You have just an idea concept logo, so MITS Plus, it'd be MITS Plus Yellow, plus Purple, plus Green, whichever color. Again, hopefully intending on future routes such as on Tillotson and on Memorial, to some of the busy corridors that also cross many different MITS routes. The final element we have down here is just some little mock-up of a diagram of what the route could look like, possibly what could be on a schedule. So we hit all the major cross streets, and again, what's marked are the transfers to the bus system. Almost everything here that I would consider a major cross street already is served by MITS is about connecting these routes. So this would accomplish all of that and more. And again, hopefully it would just be the beginning of an entire network developing around Muncie to hopefully reduce a little bit more the car dependency that is in this city. And again, I think a great sister project to this would be improving that bicycle and pedestrian connection. But because you would have access to federal funds from this project, I do think that a lot of that could come from this. And I think the businesses that the Galliard serves and how dangerous it is to get in and out, I think this is a win-win-win for everyone involved.
For the Muncie Mall. So as you can see here, this is the existing mall, and it's been struggling to keep up with current times. So we wanted to redesign the site to bring communities back to the mall and bring livelihood and community and bring investment back into it. So we wanted to keep part of the mall here, so we still have some of the mall, but break it apart so that there's more opportunity for open space and roads and sustainability. So with the tech focusedness of it, we have a business innovation center for a business incubation. We have a solar energy park that's combined with a wetland preserve to help educate the community on nature and solar energy. A light rail connection to connect people from across the state so that people can get to Indianapolis really easily. A market grocery store to bring some more food options, and some nice courtyard apartments for some more affordable housing and community gathering. And then what I really focused on was the roadscape and redesigning it to be more safe and friendly for everyone. So there's a network of primary roads and secondary roads that has a space for cars, parking, bikes, and people, so you can choose to transport any way you want. Now, Delaware County has all these bike trails here, and they're adding that red trail along the Galliard. So this path wants to build off of that and encourage more streetscaping in Muncie. Because as you can see, it's very south side, and I want more north side. And then I made a couple focused on the intersections to show a raised crosswalk for safe transportation, designated bike paths and people paths, so that no matter how you want to walk, you feel safe and friendly and like in nature. And then we also have a roundabout that has a parking lane instead of a grass barrier, so that we can do a market space there and then have buildings cars parked near the building, and I really wanted to invite people back to the area and add green space and safety for however you want to transport.
First, we're studying.
So I'm Martin Spink. I'm a second-year urban planning student at Ball State. This is my proposal for the redevelopment of the Muncie Mall site. And so this site plan was generated during the Muncie Mall charrette that we held over Field Trip Week. And basically within the site, around the periphery, we kept most of the buildings that are already occupied. And then from within Princeton and Bar, that's where the real change occurred. So we have market rate housing along this line right here with ground floor retail, and then a grocery store on site, as well as some office and retail space, and then office and manufacturing along this side, and maybe retail along the street, and then a bus station as well. And my specific focus was on transitional and affordable housing. And so these two perspectives just kind of show that we really want to develop the area to have more walkability and just more of a sense of place. So this is just showing a street view, and then the one below it is just showing kind of one of the interior courtyards next to the Beta veteran housing. And so these four buildings are going to be the ones I focus on specifically. So there's Beta transitional single housing, Beta affordable single housing, and then the family housing and veteran housing. And so moving over here, a couple of the precedents that I looked at included two in San Francisco, one being Delancey Street Foundation and the other being Embarcadero Safe Navigation Center. And then one that I looked at in Washington, D.C. was So Others Might Eat, and that has a little bit more of a similar model to the one that I have developed here, while Delancey Street is much more loose and much more up to the residents themselves. So some of the statistics that really surprised me when I was looking at census data for Muncie included 31% of the population being under the poverty line, as well as 3,443 veterans, according to the 2020 census, living within Muncie. And so that population definitely goes to support the need for this type of intervention on the Muncie Mall site. And so then within the site, there's four main services that Beta would be providing for residents. The first of that being free transportation with MITs, and that would be just to make more employment opportunities much more accessible, just for those who don't have access to a vehicle or access to any other types of transportation. And then with that, we have addiction and grief counseling, as well as job placement advising that would go to help the residents, as well as potential education partners like Ball State or Ivy Tech, and grocery stipends within the on-site grocery store to ensure that people have access to food and other basic needs. And so that the way the model would work is that it goes to serve single adults, families, and veterans. And as for single adults and veterans, it goes to serve both those experiencing financial instability or those experiencing homelessness. And so if you enter the program from homelessness, you would enter the transitional housing, which has about a 2-month limit, but there is no eligibility to enter the housing. And you would live in a dorm-style unit like one of these, where you would share a bathroom and a common space and a kitchenette area. And you would be working with the addiction and grief counselors, as well as the job placement advisors, to develop just basic hygiene skills that may need to be redeveloped, as well as find employment on the site with one of our nearby partners. And from there, you would then, and the same model would follow for veterans. Although you would have to qualify for the veteran housing, you have to have honorable discharge. From there, you would then apply after that 2-month period for affordable housing, which is an efficiency apartment. And there are a couple of stipulations, one of those being that you must be sober, as well as employed or in a job training program. And you would pay 30% of your gross income to rent, and you may stay there as long as you need. The same goes for families, although they would be in a 2-bedroom apartment. And from there, as you've spent, once you feel you've spent enough time and you're ready to re-enter market rate housing, that is that would be the next step in the process. And so the way that this really works is based on proximity. So having all of these different retailers and offices and manufacturing opportunities on site is where the potential for a multitude of employment partners comes for Beta. So having all of those options, as well as market rate housing, both near the Target and along the street, still provide tax revenue for the site and allow for these community services like Beta housing to be supported by the city. Thank you.
My project is based on sustainability of the Muncie Mall. So what we did is we took the original layout of the mall and we wanted to spread it out. So with spreading it out, I wanted to keep a lot of open space to give the mall a lot of more livelihood to it, so people can go on the lawns and enjoy, read a book. With that, we included an amphitheater so people can go and have gatherings there. So with this being more sustainable and eco-friendly, I included multiple green roofs. So people are allowed to go up there on the roof, sit there, just look out over. And with that, I wanted to include living walls. So we have no living walls in Muncie, Indiana, but this is an example of a living wall in downtown Indianapolis. And with the living wall, it creates a lot more cover to the site, and it's very peaceful. Like cafes, you can go and sit by one. Since this site is so large, I wanted to include solar panels. So right here we have solar panels on the roofs, as well as the solar field. And when it comes to the parking lots, I included solar parking. It's this is what they look like. And with the solar parking, it helps charge the little electronic charging stations for cars. And I learned that these are very popular from an article. So while people are charging their cars, while they're waiting, they want to go inside the building, look around, and buy more of their products. So it definitely makes the business more popular and has more commission. So with these, with all these new elements, the malls it will become more lively and less dull and gray. And the community is still very welcoming to the community. So with these images, it just shows how the site would look when it's comes to life and people are using it. And this is an isometric of what it looks like 3D. And then these two are perspectives. This shows someone standing on the amphitheater, and then a living wall, and someone sitting there. And then this is also another image of another living wall, and then someone using the solar parking. So just very well used of the space.
That's over here. Again, just very simple render. You're well.
I was a part of the Senior and Veteran Living Group, and we have dubbed this living center Delaware Crossing due to the rail line that goes right adjacent to it. I focused on some forms of housing, including apartments and live-works. However, those live-works are two separate rentals that have priority renting to make them live-works, but they can be mixed use. The apartments consists of multiple units that are stacked, so they're best described as duplexes, although they make up a larger complex. And then there's a backing corridor that allows the handicapped to have upper story access if they so desire. However, if they don't, they have the option of having a ground floor unit and a porch with a incline that they can reach. However, all the units have some form of outdoor access, the upper floors having a separated balcony. Every other courtyard that two of the porches faces has a different kind of tree to accommodate those with certain kinds of allergies. This, I believe, is a red blossom tree. I think an oak of some variety. Here you can see a not so busy Tuesday night with some hustle and bustle, but not much. Some people lining up to see a pizzeria, some going into a coffee shop for a late night drink. Here you can see some of the urban furniture I've designed, keeping contemporary forms, but classical ornamentation to keep the sensibilities of our main demographic in mind. This is a far more contemporary design, however, but it is very unoffensive and unobtrusive in its simplicity, so I feel that it works. And also, it stands out enough in texture that people know this is a place that I can feel comfortable and sit down.
New era of shopping malls.
Urban planning student here at the Ball State University College of Architecture and Planning. And here is my final showcase. This is focusing in on the redevelopment of the Muncie Mall. So we started with the entire mall site throughout the mall charrette. We did different circulation and concept diagrams to try to map out the best solution to fix this dying property. And then focusing on sustainability, which was my focus, this is the final master plan that I came up with. So this, we retain most of the mall structure, but we blow out the corridors to create living, working streetscapes throughout the site. And then as we move through, we have an electric BRT bus rapid transit route that connects the entire site, including a new nature preserve that's developed up here. And as we move over here, you can kind of see the different examples shown on the site. So right now, MITS, the Muncie bus system, operates kind of like a spider web. So a new electric bus route would connect these top routes up here, which is both sustainable in the general sense of the environment and helping people who go out to Walmart but don't want to have to come back into the center of town to go out and do other shopping. They can stay north on the gallery. This is just a rendering of the nature preserve that I did, which is in the northwest corner of the site. Over here we're focusing on gray water recycling, toilets, bathtubs, showers, reusing that water in every way we can. This diagram focuses on permeable pavements, allowing water to seep through and water retention to happen. Because right now, as the site is currently developed, it has the largest percentages of water runoff in the city. And then 5 is focusing on different solar canopies that would feed directly into electric vehicle chargers throughout the site. 6 is a little bit different. It focuses on economic sustainability, which is an aspect of sustainability that people often forget about. So this just focuses on having a diversified type of shopping throughout the site, because it is still going to be a retail-heavy site, but containing a diversified portfolio that will help to prevent this site from failing like it already did. 7 is a connection to the geothermal energy plant that Ball State University uses, so tying in the site to that for heating and cooling. 8 focuses on green roofs and blue roofs, a combination of the two. And then 9 is focused on just aggressive tree planting and different way of life being introduced throughout the site, just generally regreening. And we can see that over here as well. All of this used to be parking lot, but now it's wetlands with native grasses from Indiana, and just general regreening throughout the site, bringing back nature. And then down here for kind of the final, combining all of this, is a sustainable example of a new street that would be on the site. You see you have your bus rapid transit route, your bike lanes, and trees throughout with solar. And they would help you develop
For our project, I decided to focus on the educational and the sports complex area of Muncie and Delaware County. So here you can see is the new site that I proposed, which includes sports complex, museum, hotel, retail, and just a lot of places for people to come together. And then over here you can see 2 examples in Indiana. We have the Grand Sports Complex, which is the largest sports complex in Indiana. And then we have a future Broad Ripple Family Park that's in the works right now. Throughout the whole entire project, I did a lot of research to see how many public sports complex and courts that Delaware County has so far. And they do not have that many, so I thought it would be a perfect idea to create a whole new place where people can come together, celebrate sports, and also we could host championships and showcases. So if you see over here, here are some hand renderings of multi-use fields and indoor facilities. And then over here you can see the entrance of the place, which also has a drop-off loop for buses. And then I did a lot of research on how big different courts are and how large these spaces are that I have to work with. So I do have a list right here of everything that this place will include, which is also including the square feet of each and every one of them.
Well, one of the big things is how attractive it is. Okay. Hi, my name is Grayson Cates, and I'm a second-year urban planning student at Ball State. And this is my project for the Muncie Mall redevelopment. So the project first started off as a group project, and we worked on this collaborative final plan for the mall. One of the most notable things we did is we took out the hallways and made it, an open-air space. And if you look at one of my president's studies, you will see that other malls have done this before where they opened it up and it's been very successful. So we tried it with the Muncie Mall. And something that was very important was filling in the anchor stores. We didn't want to demolish them and be more sustainable to keep them. So we chose 4 uses that were centered around youth development, which was the topic we were assigned to try to target our redevelopment towards. So we have a museum, a food court and grocery store, a sports complex both indoor and outdoor, an entertainment center with indoor and outdoor space, and these uses are all for profit. The museum would be something like a Van Gogh interactive exhibit, which are very popular right now. They pop up around the country and they do make for profit. So all these uses would be generating tax revenue for the city and attracting a more variety of audience. And most of these uses are experiences. They're not about buying goods, and that's something that younger audiences are more leaning towards. That's what they want to spend their money on. So the mall focusing on that will attract more business. We also included transitional housing. This is a key location for it because there are access to a lot of low-skilled jobs that are good for re-entering the workforce in this site, and it has connections to a grocery store and a lot of other retail and the bus route. So people living in this situation often don't have a car, but they have access to walk to the bus stop or to these important resources. Also, the nature center was included, and this takes this once swampland that just collected stormwater and turned it into an educational experience nearby, especially for residents living in the area. They have a local park they can go to. We also anticipate that there will be a commuter rail line going from Fort Wayne to Indianapolis, and we thought the mall would be a great stop, so we included a train station to prepare for that. I have 3 different key users that I wanted to highlight for the mall. We have a multi-generational family because the grandparents and the grandkids can go to the museum while the parents shop, and then at the end of the day they all go to the food court. It's a place where families with different interests can get together. We also have college students to have a place where they can hang out and walk to several different places and have a good night. Because right now, probably the most similar place would either be downtown or the village, and those don't really attract college students, but this site is more targeted to them. And also the transitional housing resident has the resources they need, as I stated before. Looking at my presidents and how I incorporated these 3 malls into my site. The Jefferson Point Mall has the open concept and different fountains and trees in the middle to make it more appealing. The Greenwood Park Mall has trees in the parking lot, which makes it a more enjoyable experience for people. And then the Clay Terrace and Carmel has parking in the rear and has sidewalks to get in, along with trees and trees concealing the not that appealing facades at the backs of the buildings and concealing dumpsters that are in the back. So I chose to focus on this site, making the mall more walkable, making the site easier on the human scale, because right now only the car is the best way to get around the site. So I focused on adding different trails. We have a multi-use path, and this is for both bikes and people. There are 2 different lanes for each type to safely get around the mall. Then I focused on connecting parking to the mall, and other sites. So when you park, you have a safe place to walk to get to where you need to go. And I have this better displayed in this perspective where you park your car and you walk on the sidewalk to the entrance, and it's a more enjoyable experience, not walking in the parking lot. It's much safer. And then connecting all the sites together. So the purple line is what I use for ones that don't fit in the other categories, but they work on connecting businesses to the mall, connecting everything together. So you can park your car in one place and be able to get almost anywhere on the site just by walking or biking. And some things that I added is over here, I routed the bus stop to this location right outside the entrance. As you can see, the bus route goes over here, and the stop is now relocated to this instead of across the way. It's more in the middle, and people can stop here. And I also included a drop-off right next to it, so if you take an Uber or a taxi, you're getting dropped off or picked up, you have a safe place to go and your car's not in the way, and it's right by the entrance. On the second perspective, which shows looking this way in this center street that goes through the mall, I wanted to show how I prioritized pedestrian safety crossing these. I included more stop signs and more traffic lights for pedestrians, but some of them are just marked crossings with flashing lights that pedestrians can signal when they need to. The street also has dumpsters next to where the stores are, where they're kept, but I covered them with trees, so it's more appealing for people to walk around, and it's more natural. And then the final perspective just shows how I have the path, and I also included an archway, so the entrance to the malls are more noticeable and they make an impression, and the mall is a more enjoyable place for people to want to walk around. And this also promotes sustainability, as there's less cars used. And another measure I put for sustainability is electric charging stations at key entrances to the malls and the big box stores, so that towards the future, as more EVs are being used, the mall has a capacity to accommodate them. So this is my presentation on how to redevelop the mall and make it more walkable. Thank you, and thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Therese Hayden, and I'm a second-year planning student at Ball State. So we looked at the Muncie Mall and decided to redevelop it. Looked here at what is currently around the mall. It's mostly retail surrounded by single family, and then it's constrained by this area is existing ponds that show that are important for runoff of the area, and then it's lined by the airport approach area, which is basically just an extra but it can't have anything too high. This is a picture of the existing Muncie Mall site, and this is the area I've chosen to focus on. This is how we decided to redevelop the mall. It's focused on children and their education and sports. Again, here's the area I chose to view. You can see that we have a nature center there, but that's all we've planned for the site so far. So I decided to make this into a nature center, and I looked at nature centers already in Indiana. Here in Carmel, Indiana, we have Cool Creek Park Nature Center and Holiday Park Nature Center. They both have interactive features for children to interact with nature and learn and explore. So when I came to the site, I looked at plants that are already on site and decided which ones could stay, which ones can go. Two that can stay are the juniper and the goldenrod. They're both native to Indiana. And the two that have to go because they're invasive to Indiana are the Callery pear and the honeysuckle. And then after looking at the plants that we need to keep and we need to get rid of, I looked at how I could design the site. So I have trails, the Nature Center building and docks that give you opportunity to interact with the plants. Here we have a section view of it. You go from the building to the trails to the docks.
Anchored by a transit center,
and then
connecting to
here we have a view of one of the docks with children viewing. They can interact with nature. They found a turtle. And then here we have the interactive aquariums inside the nature center, giving children another opportunity to interact with nature. And we have another turtle.
Hi, my name is Maria. I am a second-year urban planner, and this is my presentation on transitional housing. Here we have the Muncie Mall site. Over here, these are pre-existing buildings. The mall here, we repurposed it for some retail and a STEM site. Then on the end, we repurposed it for transitional housing with an addition of a hotel across. Then for my demographic studies, I found out that the state of Indiana has a total of 5,625 homeless citizens, and out of those, 530 are homeless veterans. Looking more into Delaware County, which is made up by Yorktown and Muncie, it is the fourth county out of the 92 counties in Indiana below poverty line. It holds 1,165 homeless, and out of the 5,625 of the state of Indiana homeless population. Then a potential solution to this was an example I looked into was the Delancey Street. It's basically a street that has buildings that provide shelter to the homeless, and it also does provide training for teens up to seniors. And it influenced my transitional housing project to be focused on one main street. I also did a character study of a veteran who potentially can be on the site. He served in the Marine Corps for 25 years, and he arrived back to Muncie and found himself in a situation of homelessness. He came across Evelyn Boulevard. It provided him a safe space to live, as well as gaining experience in the landscaping work field. Moving on to this final plan view plan. These are the labels for these buildings of the mall. And then I also went ahead and did a separate labeling for my actual boulevard, Evansville Boulevard, which is focused around this street right here. It is made up out of 4 buildings. Those 4 buildings consist of the men housing, the landscape center, woman housing, and the hotel.
There's 7 bus lines that go to here, but if you go here, there's still.
I went ahead and did some enclosed perspectives. This one here is the front of the men's housing, and then I did. Then I went ahead and did one of the hotel that's across from the women's housing. And then I went ahead and did a front of the women's housing. And then a little bit about the company at Muncie Boulevard. It helps veterans who are suffering homelessness, who serve our country, and their main focus is to help serve those who serve our country. And they do that by providing not only housing, they have a landscaping center which is located up here. This allows members to learn landscaping techniques and gardening skills. Also, there is a hotel across from the women's housing that also is made up, their faculty is made up of members. They learn skills to be able to work in the hospitality aspect in the work field. And yeah, that concludes my transition housing presentation.